Hello everyone, welcome to Study Buzz. This is Nikita and I'm thrilled to share this new video with you to make your verbal section much easier. But before we delve into today's content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us on our Instagram channel and press bell icon to receive important videos updates. You can also follow us on our Instagram channel, which is studybuzz_education, and the other handles as is mentioned on your screen. You can also download our app, which is also given on the screen. Now let's move on to the video. Today we are going to focus on paragraph and sentence completion questions. These questions are extremely common and asked consistently across the various examinations, especially the MBA entrance examinations. CAT, XAT, both of these examinations consistently asks these questions as well as the other exams as well. On an average, you can find at least one to two, or sometimes even three questions of this topic in various examinations. If we talk about XAT, there are always questions based on this one. In CAT as well, they are very commonly asked, not to mention the exams like NMAT, SNAP and such. Hence, mastering these type of questions becomes a very crucial part of our preparation because they do form a very important part of our verbal section, hence impacting our verbal scores as well as percentile quite a bit. So let's dive into it. Essentially, these kind of questions, they test your ability to understand the meaning of the sentence, understand the entire comprehension, and to use context clues to choose the correct word or the phrase that might fill up the blank which is given to you. These type of questions, they don't just test the vocabulary. More than that, they also test your reasoning ability. Some of the questions can be solved by reasoning ability only, right? So even if you have no idea about what the meanings of the words are, sometimes, rather a lot of times, just your logical ability, your reasoning ability, and your ability to comprehend the contextual meanings as well as the context of the entirety of the question, of the paragraph, or of the sentence will lead you to solve these questions. This simply just means that the answer itself needs to be found out from the context. It does not mean that vocabulary is not important. It is very important. However, what is much more applicable here is that you need to work on the contextual part of the sentence rather than the words given as the option. So let's understand how exactly are we supposed to approach such questions. So generally can be solved by following steps like reading the entire sentence and understanding the overall context before actually going to the option choices. Then to identify clues, the contextual clues, the hints which are hidden in the sentence so that they can lead us to the answers. By clues, we can understand key terms or keywords which we can use to apply things like grammatical rules or meanings and how the things are related, or form logical connections so that we can reach the answer that we desire. We can also consider the tone. If we do not know the meaning, if we do not understand what exactly is going on in that particular question, in the sentence, in the paragraph, then how do we proceed? We can logically also understand the tone of the question, of the sentence or the paragraph. Is it a positive one? Is it a negative one? Is it a neutral one? That can also help us eliminate some of the choices a lot of time. Then we can also try out the options one by one. Of course, this is the natural approach that usually is taken while solving such questions. However, it is very time consuming and the choices are such, usually in the examinations, the choices are such that it becomes very confusing when approaching through these kind of methods. A lot of time, the reading the sentence part and finding out the context, they might help. Eliminations a lot of time help, or obviously identifying clues helps a lot. However, this is not something that you can apply blindly to each and every question. Each and every question is different and requires a different approach. So, what is something that we can use for questions, so for such questions as a whole? Let's talk about it. What we can do is we can look for structural keywords, as in we can look for keywords which are of significance and will help us understand what is going on in the entire question, in the sentence or in the paragraph, so that we can build up from there. Let's have an example. So, in this example, it says, despite the supposedly primitive lifestyle, Australian Aborigines developed the boomerang, a dash and a dash hunting tool that maximizes gain with minimum effort. Now, talking about this particular question, see here, there is a word used, despite. The meaning of despite is without being affected, also used in the sense of in spite of, right? So like in spite of being young, she is very intelligent. So despite is also used in that sense. So it says despite supposedly primitive lifestyle. So primitive, so what does this mean? This means that we are talking about something which happened in spite of primitive, in spite of older lifestyle, older style of lifestyle, right? Now, what does this mean? This means that we are talking about something which can correspond to things which are not relative or not similar to primitive lifestyle. So we are talking about something which is going to have a positive connotation, in other words. So due to the word despite, we come to the realization that the answers, this tool, the boomerang that we're talking about, is being talked about in a positive connotation, in a positive term, right? So it says, despite supposedly primitive lifestyle, Australian Aborigines developed boomerang, a dash and a dash hunting tool that maximizes gain with minimum effort. Now, based on the conclusion that we reached of positive connotation, we can very easily eliminate option 1 and option 3. Why? Because these are not positive, right? Further, we get options 2, 4 and 5 as possible options that could be the answer. Another thing is, it says maximizes gain with minimum effort, right? So here it says that we are talking about these two things, and these blanks, they should somehow talk about, or they should somehow give us a platform to build on this idea of maximizing gain with minimum effort. Now let's talk about it. If I choose clean and dynamic, a boomerang developed the boomerang, a clean and dynamic, how does that relate to maximizing gain and minimum effort? That does not, right? Clean is not related to that. Dynamic might also not be. Useful and attractive, attractiveness is not related to gains and effort. However, option 4th, sophisticated and efficient, sophisticated and efficient easily correlates to the idea of maximizing gain with minimum effort. Efficient essentially relates to exactly that, right? Minimum effort and maximum gains. Sophisticated also means something which can be in this connotation. Some sophistication and primitive lifestyle does not go hand in hand, and we are talking about it in the sense of despite. So primitive and sophisticated are against each other. Hence, based on this, we can very easily mark option 4 as our answer. Now here, although we explained while solving this question, while solving this example, we talked about the method in detail, hence it seemed very time consuming. However, in practice, this is somewhat of a structured approach. You find out the key terms, and based on those key terms, you find the appropriate answer. So essentially, what did we do here? We found the structural keyword, as in the keyword, the word, the idea upon which the entire sentence rests, the mode or the tone of the entire sentence rests. Then we try to find the significance of it as to why exactly is it used, like despite, and then significance was maximizing gain with minimum effort. Based on that, we went on to draw inferences as to what could be the best possible answer here, and then solve the question. Now, let's try to solve some previous year questions so that we can understand the concepts better. This is a question of XAT 2023. Let's try solving this. So in this question, here, first one says oil painting did to appearance what capital did to social dash. So we're looking for a word which will complete social further, right? It is very obvious that it is a part of the same word. So like social justice, social setup, social relation, social reality, social construction, right? So social construction makes no sense. Social construct could have been a better word, could have been the correct word. So we can eliminate this. Social reality also does not make a lot of sense, but we can still keep it aside. Here, when we talk about the context of the sentence, it says oil painting did to appearance what capital did to this. So it is very clear that we are drawing a parallel here. We are making an analogy, making a comparison here. So whatever oil painting did to the appearance, capital did the exact same thing to this. Based on this, all of these options might come in handy. However, relations seem to form the best complex. However, let's move on. Now, look at this sentence. It says everything became dash because everything became a commodity. So, everything became a commodity. So, yet again, this also confirms to this. So, we are talking about oil painting did to appearance what capital did to social. So, here we are talking about something which reduced. So essentially we are talking about oil painting and appearance in the sense that it reduced the value, it reduced the appearance to being a mere commercial commodity, which is further strengthened by this, that everything became a commodity, right? Everything became dash because everything became a commodity. So based on this, third one, exchangeability makes a lot of sense. Everything becomes exchangeable because it becomes a commodity, right? All reality was mechanically dashed by its materiality. Now, mechanically located makes no sense here, right? Measured, however, makes complete sense, right? Measured effectively concludes this entire short paragraph. It emphasizes that mechanistic quantification of the reality that happened in this particular analogy can be finally concluded by here, the materiality, right? So based on these understandings, we can very easily conclude C to be the answer here. Moving on. Now, this is a question of CAT 2024, right? So here it says that there is this sentence which is missing from somewhere in this entire paragraph. We need to locate where this sentence can fit or is the best fit. So the sentence is, and probably much earlier, moving the documentation of kissing back 1,000 years compared to what acknowledged in the scientific community. Now let's go through the paragraph. It says, research was hypothesized that earliest evidence of human lip kissing originated in a very specific geographical location in South Asia 3,500 years ago. Then there is this blank. From there, it may have spread to other regions. Now, it says that here, the sentence says that it originated, and then it says from there, from where it may have spread. It may have spread from South Asia, where it originated. So we are talking about origination and then subsequently spreading. So the logical correlation here is complete, which means this is most likely not the answer, because the flow of the event is complete. Here the chronology works out. Moving on. Simultaneously accelerating the spread of the herpes simplex virus 1, according to Dr. Charles Frank Abrol and Dr. Sophie Rasmussen, who in the new article in the journal Science draw on a range of written sources from earliest Mesopotamian societies. Kissing was already a well-established practice 4500 years ago in the Middle East. In ancient Mesopotamia, people wrote in cuneiform script on clay tablets. And here, blank. Many thousand of these clay tablets have survived to this day, and they contain clear examples of kissing was considered a part of romantic intimacy in ancient times. See, we are going backwards, right? How we talked about 3500 years ago and then subsequently spreading. However, then we talked about someone who contended this in an article and wrote that this the kissing, it originated even further back in time, right? And this says, and probably much earlier, moving the documentation for kissing back 1000 years compared to what was acknowledged in the scientific community. Now, what happened here? We moved back, right? And exactly the amount which is written here in ancient Mesopotamia. So again, it says again moving back. Mesopotamia was obviously further back. So in this correlation, in this way of moving back 1000 years, I would perfectly fit this particular sentence in option 2. That makes the correlation perfect. The logical sequence becomes perfect. Also, this one says and probably much earlier, right? So based on this, the options 1 and 2 gets narrowed down. Option 3 and 4 does not make a lot of sense because they talk about something which is entirely different. So the continuation and the flow of the language and the logic will not make a lot of sense here. First one we have already eliminated. Based on that, option 2 becomes the perfect answer. So the answer becomes option D, right? Let's move on. Let's solve one more question. Now, this is again a question of ZAT24, right? So let's start with this. Dash like a fake can be a sign of dash. Let's see. We are talking about like a fake and then relating it to being a sign of something, and clenching too tightly to what feels like one's authentic self can dash that growth. So, which growth are we talking about here? There has to be something which relates to a growth, which introduces a growth that we are talking about, but yet there has not been anything, which means it could only be related to either of the blanks before this, right? So, and it says, see, authentic self can dash that growth. What exactly is happening to that growth? Could it promote the growth? Could it stop the growth? Could it stun that growth? What exactly are we talking about, right? So based on these two things, if I compare, this is the one which talks about growth, the option, right? Second one, based on this, feeling like a fake can be a sign of growth, and clenching too tightly to what feels like one's authentic self can dash that growth, can hinder that growth. Makes complete sense, right? Now, there is another option, says acting, progress and enhance. So acting like a fake can be a sign of progress. However, this does not logically correlate. Progress and growth, they could be very well different things, different connotations, right? So when we compare, option A comes out to be a better option here. If we have growth, why do we go for something which is similar, right? If we have the exact thing, why go for something similar? So
Also, it says clinging too tightly to what feels like one's authentic self can. So we are talking in somewhat of a negative connotation. Hence, it could not be in hence. That does not make a lot of sense. Grammatically is also not making a lot of sense. So based on all of these things, A becomes the correct option. Right. Now you might have observed that for various questions, we applied similar approach of finding the key term. However, the way we approached the questions changed depending upon the question, right? The intensity of using the keyword, dependence on the keyword, it changed based on the question. This is something that we will need to pay attention to. This is something that we will be more clear with practice, right?
Hope this was good. All the best. See you next time.